What's up, friends? How's it going today? Um, I am going to be doing a video on probably one of the number one asked questions a new player is going to have. Um, and probably one of the best questions a new player is going to have. I have removed all of my units from my barracks, and we are going to be going over what the question that get asked most is what is the best unit in Warpath, right? What unit should I be investing in? Or and and what I would suggest is multiple units. um, but the summary of this video is there isn't a best unit, and it's it's up to you. And um, basically whatever you want to build your setup around is going to be what you enjoy is going to be fun, and it's going to work for what you build it for. um, so I'm gonna go over some the big things is for a new player to understand is you want to look at synergies of your units, right? Basically you're going to get three camps. You're always going to get units for those three camps, and it's what you want to build them into. So what you want to look at is how are those three units going to complement each other. So we're going to go into here, and I'm going to show you some examples of how units are going to work together, and that's going to help you pick your units based on how those three units, or four or five, actually, with planes more, how they're going to work together is really how you should base how you pick what unit you go for. Um, right? We have tanks, we have artillery, um, for base, for tanks. So let me show you a couple of setups here, um, that I've just kind of thought over and seen through playing, and what I would maybe recommend a new player to do. Um, Typically, you're going to want some form of actually tank that can absorb damage. Um, let's just okay, go into here, and the let's just start with the light heavy tank. Okay, as an example,
I am glad.
I'm sorry, not the light, the Liberty. I'm confusing myself. The Liberty heavy tank. Okay, um, here's an option. This is a tank that's just going to absorb some damage, and a lot of people are totally against some things and totally for some things. But as an example, the Liberty heavy tank, it does do extra damage. I'm not going to go over every unit's specific detail here. Let's find that. Okay. So if you look, um, at the very bottom, the fortification damage it does when you're attacking a base, you're going to get 300% damage boost. Okay, so for soaking damage, for tanking bases, or even in the field, it can absorb some damage. You're going to get a 300 boost for attacking those bases. Okay, so here's a combo I'm going to throw at you here. You could do the Liberty Heavy, absorb some base damage. Your second one, and this is going to be interesting. I'm gonna just throw this out here. Rocket launcher.
Every day
Okay.
through me.
Um, okay. So rocket launcher. Again, you're gonna be able to do some damage to bases, and you can switch this out for the martyrs, Howie. Howitzer. Uh, um, the rocket launcher just gives you a little bit more mobility in the field. You can kind of pop out and run over a couple bases and hit some units if you want. It's up to you. You can switch. You can use this. You can switch it to the howitzer. Either way, it's going to give you some base damage. And again, as you upgrade that with your Liberty Heavy, right, you can do some reasonable damage to bases. Um, Now again, you're gonna get units for every camp. Okay, with going here, every time you're using these silver for the universal chess, silver ones, um, tickets here, you're gonna get units for every camp. So we're gonna try to focus on what camp, what unit per camp that you should focus on. And some camps. So when we start using we start using these units here, the gold tickets, and we can start choosing which camp to buy from. That gives you a couple options. You can either spread those out evenly, so that based on the day, and then you can basically grow your units evenly, or you can focus on one camp, and then potentially, while the other two are slowly growing, you may end up with a second, close to a second full upgraded unit by the time the other two catch up. Either, and then the other thing is this: when you use 100 coupons, you get a choice of what camp you're going to use for a 5-star unit. So between this and this, okay, you can choose one camp to excel really fast, and you're gonna upgrade. You're gonna get that uh, 7.2-star unit quickly, um, by just choosing one camp, or you can spread it out and then kind of get all three to that stage effectively. So it's really up to you how you want to do that, and how you feel like your setup is going. If you got one unit that's just really good for what you do, push that unit if you want to, and make it work, and that's up to you. So those are so you are going to get units for every camp, um, and that's just kind of how you want to do it. Now for your last unit, I'm just going to throw this out there, is throw an ATG on there as an option.
Effective and necessary.
Okay. Now that's going to give you, your base you're gonna be able to tank. The heavy can field fight for you, can run out in the field. It is going to be quite mobile. Again, when you get into the modern units, I believe it picks up the speed quite a bit. You're going to be able to kind of move around on the field a little bit with this. You're going to have some, um, base, ability to attack bases. You also can have some blast damage, for your base defense. And again, you can switch this for the howitzer. And then this, it's just all around the anti-tank gun. It's just all around good for base defense, and it's good for you can people don't. It takes a microwave, but you can pop out and attack bases, units traveling around your base or within close proximity. This thing can devastate army groups. If you pop it out at the right time, take a couple shots, get back in. And also, now it's great for air defense. You pop this out next to your base, or if you're close with other people's bases and there's planes, this thing can bust down planes really quickly. Um, so that's just an option. A recommendation, and again, if you don't want the anti-tank gun, you could go for a um, a tank hunter, right? You could go for a Vanguard tank hunter. Um, give you some unit penetration, and a lot more mobility, especially when you get into the helicopters. I'm just gonna go over uh, um, a couple other quick ones just for the different camps. For martyrs, you can go for uh, the heavy tank. Now, something I've done a little research with HP versus units. If you could see um, for units for the thing 16, right? It goes up to 17. I just haven't got there yet. But for its health and units deployed, I've from what I can tell, that the Martyr's heavy is going to have the highest base shield coefficient, right? If you put Countess Thorns on um, this heavy, from what I can tell, it's going to have the highest base shield coefficient, right? Even better than the super heavy. From the data that I got, this is going to be the highest base shield. So if you're ever looking for that, that's definitely an option to throw this bad boy in your team. Then we come into here. Again, it's a pretty similar setup. Let's just go for the howitzer. That's going to
Sounds
give you
like
some
me.
base popping ability. And then you could come in here and again just go with the anti-tank gun, or you could go with again you could go with the tank hunter. Um, and if you have this setup and you like this setup, one thing you could even try to do is jump over to an Air Force unit. But again, that's a little bit harder when you're just starting to get all the parts and the pieces and the upgrades. Um, so that's kind of an option down the road. But again, I would, with this setup, you could just throw an HGG on there,
Effective and necessary.
and you're going to be, I think this, again, the heavy tank can move around a little bit in the field. This setup is not a bad setup to kind of start with, okay? Last one I'm going to throw at you, leave that on there, is a lot of people rag on it, but we could throw the super
Great
heavy
power
out there
and a great
and
mind.
do some damage, okay? I've seen, even in the last Paramount Cup, I've seen, which
Очень
is some of the best players in the entire game, and there's super heavies rolling around taking bases. So people think the super heavy is just not effective at all. I think there's some pretty good effectiveness on the super heavy still. Again, it's a little bit slower. You're going to want to pop out and attack bases, at a relatively close distance. If you take it across a long distance, yeah, you're going to get probably pretty wrecked by some helicopters. Um, but again, it's tough. It can take some damage. It has got some different boosts, but this is a setup right here. And for this, you could switch this over to the rockets. Again, give you a little bit mobility. This is good because if you have army groups that are just doing bunkers or something, you go throw your rocket in there. This setup here is honestly quite tantalizing too. I mean, this is a good setup. Your base defense, yeah, you don't have the anti-tank gun, but again, you could bring that up as like a lower fourth unit, and the anti-tank gun does pretty well, is pumping out some damage even at a lower level typically. um, or again, you could bring up a heli, and that could help you as kind of like a little bit of a weaker fourth tier unit. But again, this setup here, these two blast damages, they do a lot of damage to units, even to tanks, for base defense. This is a setup, where you could easily just jump over to a heavy tank, give you a little bit more mobility.
Your honor.
That's just some options. So for you newer players that are asking, what are the best unit? What should I invest in? Really, it's about what combination do you want to work with. How is your setup going to be? And I can't even. I would be embarrassed if I knew how long I've spent just trying to focus on what units to develop, and again what synergies to build. So this is just some easy recommendations for some newer players to kind of look at um, going forward. And if this is just a little bit too well rounded for
Great
you,
power
and you
and
want
a
to just
great mind.
go all for just field fighting, and I mean you could switch you could just go, if you're just like, what, I don't care about attacking bases, and I just want to get in the field and just attack. You could switch everything to purely, let's go with the light. You
Outstanding
could just
choice,
switch
Commander.
everything to, and even this, right? You have some mobility with the blast damage. There, if your team's attacking a base, somebody else is tanking it, right? You can run up with the rockets and hit it and super effective. You could switch to a way more offensive strategy as far as units in the field. The light tank has got a huge boost. I mean, these things are all over the maps now. Very effective at fighting the helicopters and the tank hunters. Um, so whatever you want to do, go for it. And the one thing I didn't add is the infantry. Infantry can be changed for any heavy tank, right? Any
I'm
heavy
glad.
tank, you can switch that for the infantry in that camp. Um, Warpath has spent a lot of time integrating infantry into the game. A lot of times, for a long time, it just wasn't very effective, and now it has become very effective. And I don't see it going away anytime soon. I don't. I think it's here to stay. So if you want to switch any of this for the infantry, right, you can switch the super heavy to the infantry of that camp. Whatever camp you choose for kind of a tank, you can switch that to the infantry. The only thing is you're going to want to go and work on the research for infantry, and that's kind of the catch, is you're going to have to invest in some research for infantry, the officers, and they can replace any tank that's for soaking up damage, so you can totally switch out for infantry. They are good in the field. You just got to stay away from the rockets, and those are just some recommendations, everyone. I spent a lot of time looking at setups, looking at um, looking at units in the field and what people are using and what can be
Очень
effective.
хорошо.
So these are just some options um, for everyone to use, and I kind of like I, I kind of like this setup.
I'm
Not that it
glad.
matters. Um, uh, this is kind of a fun one
Effective
when you
and
go the
necessary.
Liberty Heavy, and you can switch this for the rockets. But so for you new players that are asking,
Happy
what's
day
the
for me.
unit? What should I invest in? There is really no wrong unit. The only thing I would recommend is that you don't use wrong synergies, right? If you love a unit, build the other units around that unit to kind of have a little bit of a full package. Um, Otherwise, focus on what you like doing, and um, that's a big thing. Is just figuring out how your units are going to work together. And these are some examples of just the 3 units. And again, the other 2 units, when you get resources, um, can totally fill out your team and give you some more fun units that you're another aspect of the game that you might be missing. So these are just some options, and my units are still in transition. I'm still in that stage. So uh, and Death Wish is on YouTube. He has great videos on units, just comparing unit versus unit to give you some examples of what's effective against each other. Also, so have a great day, everybody. If you have any questions, please put them on. Please comment, and I will try to in the future see if I can do some videos on those also. So have a great day, everybody. Talk to you later.